Hi guys, and welcome to monthly Lenormand reading. I'm just going to tell you quickly a little bit about Lenormand, just a minute. So Lenormand refers to two types of oracle decks, the Grand Jeu and Petit Jeu. The Grand Jeu, which is French for the big game, is based on a full deck of playing cards. So each card has a large variety of symbols, such as sometimes constellation, flowers, and Trojan War. But sometimes, like maybe you're familiar with my cards, where you have the lady holding a letter, where you have the rider, snake, and so on and so forth. The Petit Jeu Lenormand, French for the little game, is a deck of 36 cards. So cards images here are simple. As I said, a clover, a bear, a key, etc. Right? This is a simplicity in this deck that really leads to cards not being read based on the picture nor the symbol, where in tarot every line actually has a meaning, and depending on combination, kind of like they end up having different meanings. Instead here, the meanings tied to the cards are fairly literal, such as luck for the clover and success for the key. Unlike the philosophical meanings, where you have the keys sort of like entry to the gateway to the spirituality, right? In this respect, Petit Jeu cards remind me of pictorial language, almost like Egyptian hieroglyphs, right? But keep in mind that both the Grand Jeu and Petit Jeu are like in that they use card combinations to expand on the meanings on the individual cards. So you see, each card has a meaning, but 1 + 1 doesn't make 2. 1 + 1 makes it like 5, and 1 + 1 + 1 makes it 15, and so on and so forth. When you put all 36 cards on the table, it is sort of like giving almost like overview on how the situation can be seen, and it can actually really give you different aspects and what is like behind you, what is aside from you, etc, etc. 36 cards, as I told you, has like so many different possibilities and meanings, and it really requires a skilled reader to do that. So anyway, I think we are going to attempt to do exactly that. So why don't you get ready, sit down, take your popcorn, and let's get into your reading. Love you. Hi Leo, so let's see where this reading takes us. I really spent some time thinking about it. I actually didn't pull the card from this deck. I'm using this Tarot Lenormand combination deck. It's kind of Russian, I think, and it doesn't work for tarot, but I think it's going to work for Lenormand. My air shuffle. Okay, so what card is here for Leo? I really want this assistance because it is kind of like interesting over here. So Leo, for February 2018, Cup Key, 5 of Cups. Okay, I had to decipher what it means, like in Russian, and luckily I can read Cyrillic letters, but I cannot figure out what it means. So this is 5 of Cups. It is the fox eating the chicken. And that's kind of like the flavor I was getting here in the reading. But let me backtrack and tell you that this is not going to be one story. This is going to be quite a few storylines because of Lenormand's nature. Right, first of all, there are two significators in Lenormand, the gentleman and the lady. It can be more. If there is a third person, most likely the snake is suspect, which is really important because all of these cards also have their, let's say, houses, right? Just like signs have houses. So for example, Leo would be what? Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, you would do the 5th house, right? That you kind of like reside in it like naturally. So the lady here is in the snake's house. So it is telling me that for some of you there is a definite kind of 3-party situation over here. No ifs or buts about it. And maybe that situation even came to an end. You have the cross, which is fate, which is karmic, but you also have the coffin and also the child. I don't know if some of you guys are mothers or what kind of role this plays. And certainly there was like some kind of like either gossip or underlying kind of influence of somebody who was trying to kind of like do something that is there to harm you. You have this kite here, which basically talks about cutting some things. Since it resides in the star's house, the communication is stopping. So for some of you, this is a long distance kind of a thing. And there is like this, the fish in the heart house. It just simply means kind of like there is a release about that, right? There is, and this is the fish house on top of that. So we have the mountain here. There are like certainly the circumstances currently right now that are really, really hard to overcome, right? So fish is generally a really good card. It is a positive card. It talks about abundance, right? It talks about also about being entrepreneur. Generally see this card sometimes connecting to some kind of like business. So maybe some of you could be in import-export business, something that maybe involves travel, something that involves prosperity or water or even finances, right? Because it's something that kind of like moves really quick, stock market kind of a thing. Or even could be simply like a restaurant where the speed and or the fish is being literally served, right? It is the card of independence, and this is why when it falls in the house of the heart, it's not necessarily predicting couplehood, right? But nonetheless, like, I mean, there is that website, Plenty of Fish, and I always, when I see this card, when it comes to dating, I always feel somebody's being thrown right back, and that's always for the best. Because look, you have just coffin right next to the fish, and the coffins is in the house of the mice, and mice just seems to be on top of that, right underneath. So it looks like whatever happened, guys, has been happening for quite a while. This didn't come as a huge big surprise. This kind of like happened over time. As I said, there is this kind of like feeling that there is a third party in here. There is a huge sadness for some of you, or for somebody here, feeling that things are lost, looking really at the negative side, you know, of the things. The glass is basically half empty, not half full over here. Where it also could be that some of you, because you're in the house of the snake, that you are the third party. In which case, you kind of like really feel that you don't have any kind of like recourse. But trust me, because the fish is here, it is basically saying that you're ahead of the game, right? And I would also say that this can indicate something finally going smooth. So I'm seeing here that at present things are not really looking up for some of you. Again, because look at this, there is the lady that is in the snake house, and there is the snake. So where do they meet? They meet in the coffin, and the coffin is in a mice house. So there is, like, that's what I said, things were just kind of building up for quite a while. The communication was sort of like, let's call it quits. This literally can mean a divorce. Where is the tower? The tower, yep, it could be talk about the divorce. But look at this, the tower and the ring can mean both marriage and divorce, especially because there is the house here. And in this case, it can indicate both for some reason. Maybe there was a third party situation, and one party will end up marrying and another party is just going to dissolve. It's kind of like a really difficult to decipher, because generally I would see these 4 cards, if only like these 4 cards are kind of like seeing the sun, the garden, the ring, and the tower as yay, you know, like you're setting yourself off, going like on the path where things will start to work out, getting married, engaged. But the mountain, which is in the house of the fish, which is kind of creating this some kind of difficulty, a challenge, issues. And there are issues with kind of getting together. There are issues with moving forward. Like on one hand, like, yeah, there was like this, oh, everything is going to so work out, and then running into problems. It just like looks like that some of you had this stop and go, stop and go, stop and go kind of issues in the past. It would work, and then something would happen, and then small things would make you happy, and then small things would make you unhappy, and then all of a sudden, poof, there is like a big wall for some kind of reason, right? And this wall could involve another person in this kind of whole thing, which is creating this whole situation almost like impossible. The very notable other thing here is like, which kind of like is going to be really good for the singles, I think, because even though the gentleman is here, the lady is here, it is like interchangeable, because this is a general reading and it can kind of apply both ways, right? There is like certainly some kind of sneakiness that all of you will be feeling on some kind of level. There is like some kind of like longing as well that I see on emotional kind of level. I generally kind of like to look corners over here in Lenormand, and one of these like 2 of the corners, like, right, we have the book, then we have the birds, then we have the writer, and then we have the ship. So there is like unknown, and like, and the fox over here, like in this particular kind of like thing, it can talk about something sneaky, and it could be that one of the partners have been holding something to their chest and not opening up about that. The stork can represent pregnancy for some, love and pregnancy and money and communication. But then again, the same kind of person is kind of excuse me, wondering in which direction to go. There are crossroads over here. Is this kind of good for me? Is this healthy? Is this relationship healthy? It could be actually literally both. Sometimes partners see us, or we see them, in 2 ways. One is like, hey, you're very sexy, I kind of like want to jump your bones, and you make me feel good, but you're just like not good on a paper. You are not marrying kind, and I don't know how to kind of like put these kind of 2 things together. The sun, which is your card in tarot, here it's not so much, and the sun and the keys are 2 really good cards. For some of you, literally, this period is going to be covered with roses. Singles are going to have a really good and romantic month. There is a sense of moving on or moving forward toward more of what you want, to a point of just like really fully falling in love. The heart is falling in the house of a dog, and the dog is in the house of the house. So loyalty, like house plus dog, talks about domestic bliss, right? So some of you guys will really, this could be either you or your partner, as I told you, like when you're looking into this, all of these stories can have just like smaller chunks. So some of you are really unlocking the unknown. You're unlocking maybe a part of your psyche, maybe a part of something that you need to find about your partner to kind of like move forward. Be very careful about your work situation. Even though, like, I mean, it looks like love for some of you is going to be just like, I mean, sun covered, and there is also flavor of possible reunion with somebody, especially who has a gray hair or graying hair, and dating this person. But be very careful that the issues need to be challenged and resolved, otherwise they're going to end up in square one again. So let's talk about the ship, which is kind of also in a corner, and it's falling in the reputation house, right, in the moon, where things are really not as they appear. You see, the ship talks about travels and distance, and but when it describes love, it talks about this deep longing for someone, and possibly this is due to distance and long distance relationship. And hence, I think the long distance relationship, we have the mice, we have the coffin, and the mice is also in the house of the sun, so it's kind of clouding the good things. It's currently causing this pain. It's causing this really big distance, right? Now, if this is not your case, then guys, this is a really good time for you to work on stocks, because something that maybe you put on a back shelf, especially it was investment, but in particular it has to be financial one, it's going to work really, really well. Now, there are issues with communication on this end. Over here, there are pretty much no issues, other than maybe there are some issues at work. So, interesting reading, because there is like a huge gap between the two significators with lots of things happening. And when you have like these many elements, just imagine, in order for this to happen, this has to happen. So in order for this to happen, this has to happen. So you can see how many things can go wrong. And instead of like going on this line, you can go this and this, where it kind of like becomes really difficult to move forward. I actually just want to clarify very few things over here because of the complexity what I see here. And again, guys, this is just a general reading. This might not be you whatsoever, but I do see distinctly two different stories. So I don't know which one are you. Are you the one that is simply going to have glorious month full of love, happy Valentine's? Yeah, are we moving forward, or are we moving away from this relationship? We are moving forward. Well, then I have this marriage and pregnancy ahead of me, etc. Or am I kind of like going through issues with the partner that kind of like is creating problems with communication, it's creating problems with the distance, and maybe even breakup. So let's see the scythe as well, and let's see the ship, and let's see the snake. Let's see where we are. So the snake started first. Fidelity. So just like him being in house, right, the heart is in the house of a dog, which we have the dog here. So yeah, they're like, guys, this again is coming up as a third party. Somebody is going to pick somebody who they feel is loyal to them, and loyalty is really getting a bad rap, with some people misusing this word. So be very careful about that. So maybe a snake is the person who is demanding loyalty, where maybe they are not replacing loyalty themselves. They're not giving loyalty themselves. The ship is the journey here as well, and the journey here is usually the rider. So this is kind of like a repetitive kind of a thing. Because you have, some of you have the cross over here, right? This can in fact, and this journey is like really connecting to this coffin. I think this is like really your inner journey, where you have to figure out, do you want to go forward, or do you want to go backward? It's not really sitting on the fence situation. Almost looks like you haven't been given a choice over here. Because you see, when you have the mice, they kind of like they eat everything in front of them, and then they poop. So both ways there is some kind of damage, and yet they're kind of completely clueless about what they're doing. Well, there either was a message or is a message of something that is kind of like being put to rest, and maybe some kind of breakup. Yeah, the thief, something has been taken away from you, and I have seen that here as well. Here in particular, this talks about work, but it can be simply talking about somebody's really sneaky attitude, right? When I see the fox here, fox is kind of like really interesting kind of card, and especially in your case, guys, right? Because we have the foxy, which I used to have a fox when I was younger, and it's so unfair in these decks that they're calling foxes and cats with such bad names, but foxes in this particular divination meaning are having sort of like a sly connotation, right? They basically stalk their prey, and when they're near to the significator, which here they're directly knighting the significator, then it's talking about that somebody's having ulterior motives, and maybe some of you have really gotten hit by that. And it is not always harmful when it comes in the spread, but like, I mean, when it's surrounded with negative cards, which the book is one of those, you know, something opened up and something has been found out, then it can come as a shock, right? So it's a person who hustles, basically, if it describes a person, right? It could be somebody who is like really petite, right? Like the horses are, I don't know, tiny, and they have like really funny voice, right? But keep in mind that there is like definitely side job, and side job to also to me means a side person. So there is a sadness, guys, that some of you are experiencing, the others of you are experiencing this exuberance, such a mismatch. So it would be really good to hear from you, which one are you? But I am telling you, both sides kind of like have to kind of turn certain things. One kind of like particular storyline is being asked to really push forward. Another one is going to keep going on happy-go-lucky. So there you go. I have two types of Leos out there. So let me know which story is yours. Would love to hear from you. Guys, Leos, thank you very much for your time. I did it much longer than I should predicted. I usually assign 10 minutes to this Lenormand readings. But when I'm doing the private readings, I can really go in depth, like, because then I go every house, every card, and then additional explanations. So Leos, let me know who is the fox over here. Love you.